Welcome. Tonight, we will spend a quiet day in ancient Egypt. We will follow the Nile from dawn to night, listening to the river, the villages, and the calm rhythm of daily life. There is no rush here. No battles. No loud stories. Just history, moving slowly. Settle in, relax, and let the past grow quiet around you. Before the sun rises above the horizon, ancient Egypt exists in a moment of quiet balance. The land rests between darkness and light, between sleep and waking, between the cool breath of night and the coming warmth of day. Along the banks of the Nile, the world feels suspended, as if time itself has slowed to listen. A pale blue glow begins to form in the eastern sky. It is soft and uncertain, spreading gently, never in a hurry. The stars fade one by one, retreating without sound. The moon lowers itself toward the western desert, leaving the river to greet the morning alone. The Nile moves steadily, as it always has. Its surface reflects the early light in broken patterns, small ripples catching hints of silver and gold. Reeds sway almost imperceptibly near the shore, responding to a light breeze that carries the coolness of the night a little longer. This river is more than water. It is memory, routine, and promise. It has shaped the lives along its banks for generations beyond counting. At dawn, it seems to breathe, slow and deep, as if preparing for another long day. On the eastern bank, palm trees stand in quiet rows. Their fronds barely move, creating soft shadows against the pale ground. Mud brick houses rest nearby, their simple shapes blending naturally with the earth. Doors remain closed. Windows are dark. Most of the village still sleeps. The air is calm and clear. It carries faint scents of damp soil, river water, and distant vegetation. There is no smoke yet, no sound of work, no raised voices. Only the natural world speaks. Birds are the first to greet the morning. A single call breaks the silence, then another, and then many more. Small birds move among the reeds, while larger shapes glide above the river, their wings slow and deliberate. Each sound feels gentle, unhurried, as if even the birds understand the importance of keeping the peace of dawn. Along the water's edge, fishing boats rest where they were left the night before. The light continues to change almost without notice. What was once pale blue now becomes a gentle gold, spreading evenly across the river and the land beside it. The sun is still low, but its presence is clear. Warmth begins to replace the coolness of night, slowly and kindly, never sudden. The Nile responds to the morning light with quiet dignity. Its surface brightens, reflecting the sky in long, broken lines that drift and reform with every movement of the water. Small waves touch the shore and retreat again, repeating the same motion they have performed for centuries. Along the banks, reeds bend softly as a light breeze passes through them. Their thin leaves brush against one another, creating a faint, whispering sound. It is barely audible, but it adds to the calm rhythm of the morning. Fishing boats now rest gently on the water. The fishermen move with practiced ease, their actions slow and familiar. Nets are lowered carefully, not thrown, but guided into the river as if placed there with intention. There is no urgency, only routine. The oars dip into the water, lifting and lowering in steady cycles. Each movement sends small ripples outward, widening and fading until the surface becomes smooth once more. The boats drift quietly, carried partly by human effort and partly by the patient current of the Nile. Above, birds continue their morning calls. Some skim the surface of the river, wings nearly touching the water. Others perch on the tops of palm trees, watching the activity below with calm curiosity. Their sounds rise and fall naturally, never sharp, never disruptive. Farther from the shore, the river widens. Here, the water moves more slowly, its depth hidden beneath layers of reflection. The sun's light dances across it, creating shifting patterns that seem to invite rest rather than attention. On land, the village awakens gradually. A woman steps outside her home carrying a clay vessel. She pauses, looking toward the river, allowing herself a.m. The sun now rests clearly above the horizon, no longer hidden, no longer tentative. Its light spreads evenly across the land, gentle but certain, warming the river, the soil, and the quiet lives unfolding beside it. The sharp contrast between night and day has softened. Everything feels settled into morning. The Nile appears calmer now, its surface smoother, its movement slower and more deliberate. Reflections stretch longer, less broken, as if the water itself has relaxed into the day. The river continues its endless journey northward, unchanged by time, steady in purpose. Fishing boats drift farther from the shore. The men guiding them move with minimal effort, letting the current do most of the work. Oars rest quietly against the sides, occasionally dipping into the water only when needed. There is no rush to fill the nets. The river provides in its own time. On the banks, footsteps become more frequent but remain soft. Sand shifts gently beneath bare feet. Clay jars touch the ground with dull, muted sounds. The morning carries on without sharp edges or sudden noise. Palm trees cast longer shadows now, their shapes clearly defined against the earth. Light filters through their leaves, creating patterns that shift slowly with the breeze. These moving shadows bring a subtle sense of motion to the stillness, like quiet reminders that time continues to pass. Animals begin to stir. A donkey stands near the edge of the village, ears flicking lazily as it listens to the sounds of the river. Birds hop along the shore, pecking at the ground, occasionally lifting into the air before settling again. Their movements are brief, gentle, and unhurried. The air feels warmer, but not heavy. It wraps around the body comfortably, carrying the sense of water, earth, and growing plants. Breathing feels easy and deep, as if the morning itself encourages calm. The morning now feels complete. Dawn gently releases its hold, not abruptly, but with quiet acceptance. The soft boundary between night and day dissolves almost without notice. What remains is a calm, settled morning, balanced and unhurried. The sun climbs a little higher, spreading its warmth more evenly across the land. Its light is no longer tentative. It rests confidently on the river, the palms, and the mud-brick homes along the shore. Shadows shorten, drawing closer to the feet of trees and walls, as if seeking rest themselves. The Nile continues its slow, endless movement. Boats drift farther along its surface, some returning toward the shore, others gliding silently downstream. Nets are lifted with care, water falling back into the river in soft, rhythmic patterns. Each drop returns without resistance, welcomed back into the flow. The fishermen remain calm and focused. Their work feels meditative rather than laborious. Movements repeat, familiar and steady, guided by years of quiet knowledge rather than conscious thought. Along the river bank, the village settles fully into the day. More doors stand open now, allowing light and air to enter simple homes. Clay jars are filled and carried away. Footsteps leave gentle marks in the sand, soon softened again by the breeze. The sounds of life increase slightly, but they never rise above a peaceful murmur. Children begin to appear at the edges of doorways, still slow, still drowsy. They watch the river and the adults moving about, absorbing the calm rhythm before joining the day themselves. Their voices remain soft, as if instinctively respecting the quiet tone set by the morning. Animals move with similar ease. A goat wanders near the water's edge, stopping to drink. Birds gather briefly, then scatter again, their wings catching the sunlight before disappearing into the palms. Even their movement feels gentle, unforced. The air grows warmer, but the heat of midday is still far away. Morning settles gently over the village beside the Nile. The sun is now fully present, but it has not yet become demanding. Its warmth spreads softly across the mud-brick homes, the narrow paths between them, and the quiet spaces where daily life begins. Shadows still exist, resting along walls and doorways, offering cool refuge before the heat of midday arrives. The village awakens without urgency. Doors open slowly, not thrown wide, but eased open with familiarity. Light enters simple interiors, illuminating woven mats, clay vessels, and low wooden stools. The air inside the homes is cool at first, carrying the calm of the night that has just passed. Outside, the ground feels firm and warm beneath bare feet. Sand and earth hold the memory of yesterday's sun, releasing it gradually into the morning. Footsteps leave shallow marks that fade as others pass, smoothing the path again. A woman steps into the open carrying a basket made of reeds. She pauses briefly, letting her eyes adjust to the light. Her movements are unhurried, practiced, shaped by routine rather than thought. She sets the basket down and stretches her arms gently, breathing in the morning air. Nearby, another home stirs. A man bends to lift a clay jar, testing its weight before settling it against his shoulder. Water sloshes quietly inside, a soft sound that blends with the low murmur of the village. He walks toward the river, following a path worn smooth by countless similar journeys. The village paths begin to fill, but never crowd. People move past one another with ease, offering small nods, quiet acknowledgements, and a few simple words exchanged softly. Voices remain low, as if the calm of dawn still deserves respect. Laughter has not yet arrived. That belongs to later hours. Children begin to appear at the edges of doorways. They move slowly at first, rubbing sleep from their eyes, adjusting to the brightness of the day. As the morning continues, the village settles into a steady and familiar rhythm. The sun rises a little higher, brightening the open spaces between the homes. Light fills the narrow paths, warming the ground and softening the edges of every shadow. The air remains calm, carrying the gentle sounds of daily life without urgency. People move with purpose, but never with haste. A small group walks together toward the river, each person carrying a clay jar balanced carefully against the body. The jars knock softly against one another as they walk, producing a dull, comforting sound. Their steps are even and slow, shaped by years of repetition. At the river's edge, they pause. Water is drawn patiently, jar by jar. The surface of the Nile ripples briefly with each movement, then smooths again. Sunlight reflects in soft flashes, never sharp, never distracting. Hands dip into the water, cool and refreshing, before lifting the jars back into waiting arms. The return to the village is quiet. The weight of the water encourages slower steps. Breathing deepens naturally. Conversation remains minimal, reduced to brief comments and shared glances. The calm of the river follows them home. Back among the houses, morning work continues. Mats are shaken gently and laid out in the sun. Tools are brought into the open, inspected, adjusted, then set aside until needed. Baskets are reorganized, their content shifted carefully, each item returned to its familiar place. The smell of food grows warmer. Grain is mixed with water. Dough is shaped by patient hands and left to rest. Cooking fires are tended with care, never allowed to flare too brightly. Smoke rises straight into the sky, thin and pale, dissolving quickly into the light. Children now move more freely. Some sit close to the adults, watching quietly. The morning deepens, settling more firmly into the village. The sun now stands higher above the horizon, its light stronger but still gentle. Warmth spreads evenly across the open spaces, encouraging slower movement and longer pauses. Shadows retreat beneath roofs, trees, and walls, becoming places of rest rather than contrast. The pace of the village softens further. Tasks continue, but they stretch out, no longer driven by the freshness of early morning. People move deliberately, conserving energy, choosing comfort over speed. Each action feels measured, thoughtful, and calm. Near the homes, work shifts into shaded areas. Mats are pulled closer to walls. Tools are laid down carefully and picked up again only when needed. Hands work steadily, then pause, resting briefly in stillness before continuing. A woman sits beside a low table, sorting grain. She lifts it slowly, letting it fall through her fingers in a steady stream. The sound is soft and continuous, almost like water. Her posture is relaxed, her movements unhurried, shaped by long familiarity rather than effort. Nearby, another figure weaves reeds into a basket. The reeds bend easily, responding to gentle pressure. Fingers guide them patiently, creating patterns without thought. The basket grows slowly, quietly, one movement at a time. Children begin to rest. Some lean against walls, watching the light shift across the ground. Others sit together in the shade, drawing shapes in the dust with their fingers. Their energy has softened, replaced by quiet observation. Voices are fewer now. Conversation fades into silence between brief exchanges. When someone speaks, it is calm and low, carried only a short distance before dissolving into the air. The animals respond to the heat. They gather in shaded corners, lowering themselves onto the ground. Breathing slows. Movement becomes minimal. Even the insects seem quieter, their presence felt more than heard. The village feels suspended. As the morning deepens, the village settles into a gentle and steady rhythm. The sun now stands higher above the palm trees, its light clearer and warmer, spreading evenly across mud brick walls and narrow paths. Shadows shorten, gathering quietly at the base of houses, beneath baskets, and beside resting animals. Nothing feels rushed. Everything moves at the pace it always has. The air carries fewer cool traces of dawn and more of the day's warmth. Soft breezes drift through open doorways, lifting the smell of grain, clay, and river water. Insects hum lazily, their sounds blending into the background like a constant breath. The village does not announce its life loudly, it simply continues. Near the center of the village, a few people pause in shaded areas. They sit on low stools or flat stones, hands resting loosely in their laps. These moments of stillness are not breaks from work but part of it. The body knows when to slow, when to let the sun rise a little more before moving again. An older man watches the ground as he smooths the edge of a clay vessel. His fingers move with practiced ease, pressing and shaping without thought. The vessel has been made many times before, in this same place, under this same sky. He does not hurry. The clay will wait. Nearby, a woman adjusts a woven basket beside her doorway. She checks its bindings carefully, tightening one strand, loosening another. The basket will carry vegetables later in the day, perhaps grain tomorrow. For now, it rests in the shade, complete and useful, exactly as it should be. Children drift through the paths in small groups. Some walk quietly, others stop to examine stones, insects, or marks in the dust. Their voices are low, their laughter brief and soft. Even their play seems shaped by the calm of the morning, as if they too sense the village's unspoken rhythm. A goat wanders slowly between houses, stopping now and then to nibble at scattered leaves. No one chases it away. The sun now stands high above ancient Egypt. Its light falls almost straight down, washing the land in brightness. Colors fade slightly under the intensity, turning softer, paler, as if the world itself has decided to slow its breathing. The air feels heavier, thicker, carrying warmth without movement. This is the hour of stillness. The lively rhythms of morning have gently dissolved. The village no longer stirs with preparation or motion. Instead, it rests. Shadows have become precious. They gather beneath palm trees, along the sides of mud brick walls, under simple awnings stretched across narrow paths. Wherever shade exists, life quietly gathers around it. People move only when necessary. Steps are slow and careful, taken with awareness of the heat. Each movement is deliberate, measured, conserving strength. There is no hurry, no urgency. The day itself seems to discourage haste. Most villagers have withdrawn indoors. Behind thick mud brick walls, rooms remain cool and dim. Doorways stand open, allowing a thin ribbon of light to slip across the floor. Inside, figures rest quietly, lying on woven mats or sitting with backs against the wall. Breathing is slow. The body adapts to the warmth by doing less. Muscles soften. Thoughts stretch and drift, unhurried and calm. Outside, the village paths are nearly empty. Dust lies undisturbed. Footprints from the morning remain untouched, slowly fading under the sun. The silence feels full rather than empty, filled with warmth and light. Animals mirror the stillness. Goats and donkeys stand quietly in shaded corners, heads lowered. Birds retreat to branches and rooftops, wings tucked close, conserving energy. Even insects seem fewer, their sound subdued. The Nile itself appears calmer. Its surface reflects the bright sky in slow, gentle ripples. Boats that moved earlier now rest near the banks, ropes loose, sails folded. The river breathes quietly, steady and patient. The heat settles more deeply now, pressing gently but firmly upon the land. The air feels thick and unmoving, as though even the wind has chosen rest. Light fills every open space, leaving little contrast, softening the edges of the world. Colors blend into one another, pale and calm. Inside the homes, quiet deepens. Rooms remain dim and cool. Sunlight reaches only the thresholds, stopping respectfully at the doorway. Beyond that line, shadows hold steady, offering comfort from the burning sky. People rest without urgency. Bodies lie stretched on woven mats. Some sit with knees drawn close, backs against the wall, eyes closed or half open. Breathing is slow, steady, almost synchronized. No one speaks. Conversation feels unnecessary in this hour. Words would require effort, and effort is carefully avoided. Silence becomes the shared language of midday. Occasionally, a small movement occurs. A hand adjusts a cloth. A shoulder shifts against the wall. These motions are minimal, almost instinctive, then stillness returns. Outside, the village paths remain empty. The dust has settled completely. Footsteps are rare, and when they occur, they pass quietly, quickly, as if apologizing for the disturbance. A lone figure crosses a narrow path. He walks slowly, staying close to the walls where shadows gather. His pace is careful, conserving strength. Once he reaches shade again, he stops, resting without hesitation. Animals remain motionless. They understand this hour well. Goats lie with legs tucked beneath them. Donkeys lower their heads, eyes closed. Dogs stretch out in the narrow strips of shade beside walls. The insects hum softly. Their sound is distant and continuous, blending with the heat itself. It does not demand attention. It simply exists. Beyond the village, the fields wait. Work has paused there as well. Tools lie untouched at the edges of the land. Crops stand quietly beneath the sun, leaves angled upward, absorbing light without resistor. The silence deepens further, becoming almost tangible. It rests over the village like a gentle veil, softening every sound before it can fully form. The heat no longer feels active, it has settled into a steady presence, constant and unchanging. In the shade, time dissolves. People rest in positions chosen for comfort rather than form. Limbs are loose, posture relaxed. The body finds ease where it can, yielding fully to the moment. Eyes close more often now. Sleep comes lightly, not fully claimed, but hovering close. Thoughts drift slowly, without direction, like clouds passing through a pale sky. A faint breeze touches the village. It moves quietly through doorways and along walls, barely strong enough to stir fabric. Its arrival is noticed only briefly before it disappears again. Palm leaves whisper softly. Their sound is low and rhythmic, blending seamlessly into the silence. It is a reminder of movement without disrupting rest. Along the riverbank, the Nile continues its calm flow. Water slides past reeds and stones, creating a subtle, repeating sound. The river does not rush. It carries itself forward patiently, unchanged by the heat. Shadows stretch and soften. Though the sun remains high, shadows lose their sharp edges. They blur gently, offering deeper pockets of relief. A fisherman sits near the water. His boat rests beside him, untouched. Nets lie folded at his feet. He waits without impatience, knowing the time for movement will return later. Birds remain still. Some perch quietly along branches, feathers slightly raised against the warmth. Others stand at the water's edge, unmoving, watching reflections ripple slowly. The village holds its breath. Not in tension, but in calm acceptance. This pause is familiar, welcomed, and respected. Even sound seems to slow. The hum of insects becomes softer, stretching into the background. Each note lingers longer than it should, then fades gently away. Inside the homes, rest deepens. The heat begins to loosen its hold, almost imperceptibly. It does not retreat suddenly. Instead, it softens, allowing the smallest changes to return to the land. The air remains warm, but it feels lighter now, less pressing, as if the day itself has exhaled. Shadows begin to shift. They move slowly along walls and across the ground, lengthening just enough to be noticed. Their edges remain soft, gentle, offering wider places of comfort. Within the village, rest lingers. People remain still, holding on to the quiet a little longer. Bodies stay relaxed, unwilling to break the calm too quickly. This pause is cherished. A few eyes open. Not fully alert, but aware. The world returns gradually, without demand or urgency. A hand reaches for water. A clay jar is lifted carefully. The sound of liquid moving inside is soft and steady. Small sips are taken, slowly, bringing relief and renewal. Outside, the paths remain mostly empty. But a subtle readiness begins to form. The village is not awake yet, but it is no longer fully asleep. A gentle breeze passes through. It moves palm leaves and light fabric, carrying with it a hint of movement to come. It does not disturb the calm. It prepares it. Along the river, the Nile continues its patient flow. Light reflects differently now, less harsh, more welcoming. The water glimmers softly, inviting quiet activity later in the day. A fisherman adjusts his net. The movement is slow, almost symbolic. Work has not begun, but intention has returned. Animals stir slightly. A donkey shifts its weight. A goat lifts its head, then settles again. The signs are small, but meaningful. The village breathes together once more. Not in stillness alone, but in readiness. The balance between rest and movement begins to shift. Midday does not end abruptly. It fades, blending gently into the afternoon, carrying its calm forward. The silence remains, but it is no longer absolute. It makes room for what comes next. The afternoon arrives gently along the banks of the Nile. The sun has begun its slow descent, no longer pressing straight down, but casting warmer, angled light across the water. The heat of midday loosens its grip, replaced by a softer warmth that invites movement to return. The river reflects this change. Its surface shimmers with deeper tones now, gold, pale blue, and soft green blending together. Ripples move lazily, stretching reflections into slow, flowing patterns. Along the riverbank, life begins to stir again. Figures appear where there was stillness before. Not many, and not quickly, but enough to signal that the day has turned a corner. A small boat drifts near the shore. Its wooden sides touch the water lightly, creating a quiet, rhythmic sound. An oar rests across the boat, unused for the moment, as if waiting for the right time. A man stands near the water's edge. He watches the river calmly, hands resting at his sides. His posture is relaxed, unburdened by urgency. The afternoon does not demand haste. Further along the bank, children gather. They move softly, careful not to disturb the calm that still lingers. Their laughter is low, brief, carried away quickly by the open air. The breeze returns. It travels along the surface of the Nile, lifting the edges of clothing, rustling reeds and palm leaves. It is light, but noticeable, a welcome contrast to the earlier stillness. Shadows stretch outward. Palm trees cast longer shapes across the ground, reaching toward the water. Mud brick walls along the village edge catch the light differently now, textured and warm. The air feels lighter. Breathing comes easier. The heaviness of midday fades into memory, replaced by a sense of quiet renewal. A woman kneels near the river. She dips a vessel into the water slowly, watching as it fills. Small ripples spread outward, then settle again. She lifts the vessel carefully, as if honoring the calm around her. Nearby, reeds sway gently. The river carries the afternoon forward with quiet assurance. Light glides across the Nile in slow bands, shifting gently as the sun lowers. The water no longer mirrors the sky as brightly as it did at noon. Instead, it gathers warmth, holding reflections longer, softening them before letting them drift away. Along the bank, small movements repeat. A boat is nudged slightly closer to shore. A rope is loosened, then retied. Each action is calm and unremarkable, yet deeply familiar. These are motions learned over a lifetime, passed from hand to hand without instruction. Children step closer to the water. They crouch near the edge, watching ripples spread outward from their fingers. Their play is gentle, uncompetitive, guided by curiosity rather than noise. When laughter escapes, it is brief and quiet, carried off by the breeze. The breeze strengthens just enough to be felt. It travels across the river first, then reaches the bank, brushing skin and fabric. It cools without chilling, refreshing without urgency. Palm fronds sway slowly, their shadows moving in long arcs across the sand. Further downstream, boats begin to drift. They do not hurry. Oars dip into the water at an easy rhythm, lifting and returning with soft splashes that fade almost immediately. The river accepts their passage without resistance. A fisherman checks his net. He lifts it carefully, inspecting knots and cords. The net has been repaired many times before. Each repair tells a quiet story of use and patience. When he is finished, he folds it neatly and sets it aside. The bank feels open and spacious. There is room to sit, to stand, to watch. No one crowds the river. Everyone gives space, allowing the afternoon to unfold naturally. Sunlight touches the reeds. Their thin leaves glow softly, edges bright against darker water. They bend and return, repeating the same movement again and again, untroubled by time. Sounds gather lightly. The water against the hull. The afternoon grows warmer in tone, though not in weight. The sun lowers further, and with it the quality of light changes again. It becomes softer, richer, wrapping the river and its banks in a gentle glow. The brightness of midday is gone, replaced by something calmer, more forgiving. Along the Nile, movement slows into a comfortable rhythm. Boats that drifted earlier now rest again near the shore. Some are tied loosely, rocking just enough to show the river's steady breath. Others float quietly, held in place by shallow water and habit. People linger by the water. They stand or sit without purpose beyond presence. Watching the river is enough. Listening to it is enough. A child trails fingers through the water. The ripples spread outward in widening circles, then fade into the surface. The motion is simple, repeated, soothing. Each time, the river responds in the same gentle way. The breeze carries distant sounds. A voice from far down the bank. The hollow knock of wood touching wood. The soft cry of a bird passing overhead. Each sound arrives slowly, leaves quietly. Palm trees sway in unison. Their shadows stretch across sand and stone, moving almost imperceptibly. The ground records their motion like a slow clock, marking time without numbers. On the far bank, fields glow softly. The light touches crops and soil evenly, without urgency. Work will return later, or tomorrow. For now, the land rests in shared calm. A fisherman pushes his boat a little farther into the water. He does not leave yet. He simply adjusts its position, aligning it with the current. Preparation without action. Readiness without demand. Water birds gather near the reeds. They stand motionless, reflections forming beneath them. When one moves, it does so slowly, carefully, as if aware of the quiet around it. The river seems wider now. Not because it has changed, but because the mind has slowed enough to notice its breadth. The afternoon begins its quiet descent toward evening. The sun lowers further, its light thinning and softening as it moves closer to the horizon. What remains is warm and gentle, touching the river and its banks with care rather than force. Along the Nile, everything slows once more. Movements become fewer, pauses longer. The energy of the afternoon gathers itself, preparing to fade without resistance. Boats return to rest. Those that drifted gently now settle against the shore. Ropes are secured loosely, allowing small movements with the water. Oars are placed carefully aside, their work complete for the day. People begin to withdraw from the river. Not all at once, and not with finality. Some linger a moment longer, watching the light on the water, listening to the familiar sounds one last time. Children are guided gently away. Hands are taken, small feet follow slowly. There is no protest, only quiet acceptance. The river will be here again tomorrow. The breeze softens. It still moves through reeds and palm leaves, but with less strength. Fabric settles. Sounds grow quieter, more spaced apart. Shadows stretch long across the sand. They blend together, losing their edges, becoming part of the ground itself. The contrast between light and dark fades into harmony. A fisherman lifts his net. He folds it slowly, carefully, respecting its weight and use. There is no rush. The day has offered what it will. Water reflects the changing sky. Gold shifts toward amber. Blue deepens slightly. The river carries these colors gently, holding them just long enough to be noticed. The village edge grows quieter. Figures move back toward homes, carrying small bundles, empty vessels, simple tools. Footsteps are soft, unhurried. Voices are rare. When they appear, they are low and brief, dissolving quickly into the open air. The land prepares for rest again. Fields darken slightly. Birds settle into branches. The wide sky begins to cool. Evening arrives quietly in ancient Egypt. The sun slips below the horizon, and its final warmth lingers only in memory. What remains is a softer light, cool and gentle, spreading evenly across the land. The sky shifts slowly, turning from gold to deepening blue. Along the Nile, the day exhales. The river darkens, reflecting the changing colors above. Its surface smooths, movements becoming slower, heavier, as if settling into rest. Villages begin to dim. Lamps are lit one by one. Small points of warm light appear in doorways and along paths, glowing softly against the encroaching dusk. Each flame is steady, unhurried. People return home. Footsteps fade from the river bank. Tools are set aside. The work of the day dissolves naturally into memory, leaving no trace of urgency behind. The air cools. Heat held in stone and sand releases slowly, meeting the night halfway. The breeze carries this change gently, brushing across skin and fabric without surprise. Birds settle. Their calls soften, then fall silent. Wings fold. Branches hold still. The sky accepts them into its growing quiet. The Nile continues its steady flow. Now darker, deeper, more reflective. Moonlight has not yet arrived, but the river already knows what is coming. It waits patiently. Shadows blend together. Edges disappear. Forms simplify. What remains is shape and presence rather than detail. Inside homes, voices lower. They drift gently through open doors and windows, then fade. Conversation slow, becoming murmurs, then silence. The sky deepens further. Stars begin to appear, a first one, then another, faint at first, then more certain. They do not rush. They take their places carefully. Night settles over Egypt. Not suddenly, not dramatically. It arrives like a familiar guest, expected and welcome. The land accepts the darkness. And in this calm transition, the world prepares for rest. The night in ancient Egypt does not arrive suddenly. It deepens slowly, like a veil gently drawn across the land. The last warmth of the day still lingers in the stones. Walls, steps, and pathways release the heat they absorbed under the sun, breathing it softly back into the air. The breeze that moves along the Nile carries a faint coolness now, enough to touch the skin and invite stillness. In the narrow streets near the river, footsteps grow fewer. Voices that once echoed between mud brick walls fade into murmurs, then into silence. Doors close with quiet finality. Wooden shutters are drawn. Inside the homes, families gather close, sitting on woven mats, their movements slow and unhurried. Oil lamps flicker gently. Their flames dance just enough to cast soft shadows on the walls, shadows that stretch and shrink, alive but calm. The light is never harsh. It exists only to comfort, to reassure, to mark the presence of life in the growing darkness. Outside, the sky deepens into indigo. Stars begin to reveal themselves one by one, unhurried, as if they have all the time in the world. The moon rises slowly above the horizon, pale and steady, reflecting faintly on the surface of the Nile. The river itself seems to change at night. During the day, it is alive with movement, boats, voices, splashing water. Now, it becomes smooth and reflective, like a dark mirror stretching endlessly through the land. Reeds along the bank sway gently, whispering to one another in the breeze. Small boats are tied securely to wooden posts. Their ropes creak softly as the water shifts. Fishermen have returned home, carrying their nets folded carefully, knowing the river will still be there when morning comes. Nothing rushes. Nothing is urgent. Near the temples, the night has its own rhythm. Stone columns rise quietly into the darkness, their carved figures half seen in the low light. Hieroglyphs catch the glow of torches, their shapes softened by shadows. As the night grows older, Egypt sinks deeper into silence. The moon now stands higher in the sky, its pale light spreading evenly across the land. It softens the edges of everything it touches: walls, palm trees, temple columns, the gentle curves of the river bank. Shadows become longer and less defined, blending quietly into one another. The Nile glows faintly beneath the moonlight. Its surface moves slowly, almost imperceptibly, carrying reflections of stars that shimmer and disappear with each small ripple. The water feels ancient and patient, as if it remembers every night that has ever passed along its banks. It flows without effort, without sound, without intention, simply because it always has. Along the river, animals rest. Donkeys stand tethered near the water, heads lowered, breathing deep and steady. Cattle lie close together, their bodies rising and falling in a slow rhythm. Occasionally, one shifts slightly, hooves pressing into the cool earth before becoming still again. In the palm groves, leaves rustle softly. The sound is gentle, repetitive, almost soothing. It carries no urgency, only the quiet movement of air passing through living things. The city itself feels distant now. Most homes are dark, their interiors surrendered fully to sleep. Only an occasional lamp still burns, a small point of warmth in the vast night. Inside, someone may still be awake, an elderly man resting but not sleeping, a mother watching over a child, a priest completing a final prayer. Their movements are minimal, respectful of the silence that surrounds them. The streets lie empty. Stone pathways, worn smooth by countless footsteps, now reflect moonlight faintly. Dust settles. Nothing moves except shadows and the slow passage of time. the city does not feel abandoned, it feels paused, as though the world itself has decided to rest. At the temples, the night rituals near their end.